What is good, world? You have tuned in to another episode of The Double Edge Factor. I am your host, Rob Manuel, and peace and blessings unto you. Before we get going, be sure to like, follow, and hit that subscribe button to never miss another episode. Or you can find The Double Edge Factor on linktree.com, where you will have access to all of our social media outlets. Today, I want to talk about something that might seem old-fashioned to some, but I believe it's more relevant than ever in a fast-paced world that we live in. The importance of punctuality, preparedness, and professionalism. These 3 Ps can make or break careers, relationships, and even determine the trajectory of your life. So, let's start with punctuality. Being on time seems simple enough. Seems right. Yet it's amazing how many people struggle with this basic courtesy. When you're punctual, you're making a statement about your reliability, your respect for others, and self-discipline. I remember interviewing a young lady for a position a few years back. She had an impressive resume, stellar recommendations, but she showed up like 15 minutes late for the interview. No call, no text. Just walked in slightly out of breath with this story about traffic. Now, don't get me wrong. Traffic happens. But what struck me was she hadn't planned for it. She didn't leave early. She didn't call ahead. In that moment, all her qualifications became secondary because she had shown a fundamental lack of respect for my time. Contrast that with another candidate who arrived 15 minutes early, sat quietly reviewing his notes, was ready to begin exactly as we scheduled. You can probably guess who got the job, right? It wasn't just about being on time. It was about being on time and what it represented. There's a wonderful verse, Ecclesiastes 3:1. It says, "To everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under the heavens." This reminds me of, the importance that timing matters, not just in the grand scheme of life, but in our day-to-day commitments. Now, let's touch on preparedness. Being prepared means you've thought ahead, anticipated challenges, and made plans to address them. It seems like you're showing foresight and you're showing commitment. I was once a speaker at this company conference where my presentation failed to load. When the tech guy started scrambling to try and fix the problem, I kind of froze. I just kind of stood there. I was visibly pissed with nothing to say. 10 painful minutes later, I'm still waiting, right? And the audience is checking their phone and whispering among themselves. And when the presentation finally loaded, I had already lost it. The following day, though, same exact conference, I was faced with the same exact glitch. But this time, I just smiled at him. I pulled a set of note cards from my pocket and said, well, technology has other plans for us today, but I came prepared. I then delivered a compelling talk without a single slide, keeping the audience engaged while the issues were resolved behind the scenes. When the slides finally appeared, it was almost an afterthought. I had already won the room with all of my preparedness. The positive consequences of being prepared extend beyond just having a backup plan. When you're prepared, you project confidence. You reduce stress, both for yourself and those around you. You create space for creativity because you're not scrambling to cover the basics. Finally, there's professionalism. That special blend of behavior, appearance, and attitude that marks you as someone who takes their responsibilities seriously. Professionalism isn't really about wearing a suit or having a fancy vocabulary. It's about operating with integrity, maintaining appropriate boundaries, and consistently delivering on your promises. I had a guy that I used to work with. Dude was just smart. I mean, one of the smartest people I knew, right? He would send emails just full of typos and and he dress appropriate for client meetings. He would overshare his personal information, just going over, right? His brilliance could only take him so far because his lack of professionalism undermined his trust. Clients would question, like, if he doesn't care enough to proofread his email, how carefully is he going to handle my project? Now, on the flip side of that, I've seen people with average talents rise to extraordinary heights because they consistently demonstrated professionalism. They responded to messages promptly. They dressed appropriate for the occasions. They spoke respectfully to everyone from the CEO to the custodian staff. Their work was always thorough, thoughtful, and on time. And we will be right back. Today's show is brought to you by Polished Custom Builders, where they specialize in building your dream into a reality through custom home building, renovations, and interior design. Check them out at polishedcustombuilders.com, where the most beautiful house in the world is the one that you build yourself. And we are back. Okay, so we've touched bases on punctuality, preparedness, and professionalism. What can happen when these three qualities are absent or non-existent? Well, when you're chronically late, you burn social capital. People stop trusting your word. They make plans without you, and opportunities stop coming your way because you've developed a reputation of unreliability. When you're unprepared, you waste other people's time. You waste the resources. You create unnecessary stress. And you miss crucial details that could have been easily addressed with just a little bit of proper planning. When you lack professionalism, you limit your own potential. You might be passed over for promotions, excluded from important projects, and find yourself perpetually stuck at a certain level while watching less than talented but more professional colleagues of yours advance. Let me share a personal story that kind of brings these principles all together. Years ago, I was a part of a team pitching for a major contract. This is the kind of contract that would transform a small company. We were competing against another window covering business much larger than ours, with more resources and a bigger name. The day before the presentation, our lead presenter got sick, like hospital sick, right? So we could have just asked to reschedule, but we knew that would send the wrong message. So instead, we stayed up all night, redistributing the parts of the presentation, rehearsing it until we could deliver it flawlessly. We arrived like an hour early to get set up and to test everything to make sure everything was working properly. When the client walked in, we were calm, we were prepared, and we were professional, despite our internal panic and lack of sleep. After we won the contract, the client told us something fascinating, though. One of our competitors had actually scored higher on their evaluation, but they chose us because, as they put it, you demonstrated that you can handle a crisis without missing a beat. And that's what we need in a partner. So our punctuality, showing up early, our preparedness, having a contingency plan, and professionalism, maintaining our composure under pressure, had won us the biggest opportunity in the company's history. So how can you strengthen these critical qualities in your own life? Well, let's start with punctuality. Always have a plan to arrive 15 minutes early. Track what makes you late and eliminate those patterns. Set multiple alarms if you have to. Prepare for things, like your clothes, your materials, your directions. Do all that stuff the night before. For preparedness, develop a checklist for reoccurring situations. Always have a plan B, or maybe even a plan C. Regularly ask yourself, what could go wrong here, and plan accordingly. Build in a buffer time for unexpected challenges as well. For professionalism, seek feedback on those blind spots. Find mentors who exemplify the professional qualities you admire. And remember that professionalism is consistent. It's how you behave when no one's watching, as well as when all eyes are on you. And you can also invest in continuing education and skill development. As we wrap this thing up, I want to emphasize that punctuality, preparedness, and professionalism are not outdated concepts. They are timeless principles that distinguish the exceptional from the average. In a world where so many factors are beyond our control, these three qualities, they remain firmly within your grasp. They cost you nothing to develop, but can return dividends throughout your entire life and your entire career. So, whether you are a student, a professional, an entrepreneur, or a retiree, investing in these 3 Ps will elevate every aspect of your life and open doors you might never have known existed. This is Rob Manuel with the Double Edge Factor. And it would mean the world to me if you would share this episode with just one person. And hey, let's be more than podcast friends. Hit that subscribe button to never miss another episode, or find the Double Edge Factor on linktree.com, where you can join that email list and have access to all of our social media outlets. I'll leave you with this, my friends. Be intentional with your words, thoughts, and actions, and always find a way to be a blessing to someone else today.